nobody's on at the moment because I've just announced, and yeah, okay, so I'll not worry too much about that at this stage. Just gonna crack on. So why am I doing it if nobody's watching? Well, maybe you'll watch later. I think it's actually just a good little bit of forcing me to get on with, something. Try and focus. So the fact that maybe somebody will watch and that this needs to be some sort of cohesive piece of show, that's actually an encouragement from my point of view to get cracking. So what have we got to do today? Well, let's have a look at my notes. Come to me, Notion. Okay. There was we did some interesting things last week, which I'm just going to quickly catch us up on by having a look at them in my thing. Where is this? Git history. That's what I need. So we added a customer model because I missed that for some reason. We connected it to a payments table. We started to flesh out the payment model, and what else? Oh, hey, TJ. And Daryl. Nice. Hello. Welcome. Sorry, I was in monologue mode because I didn't have anybody here, so I was just carrying on. I know I didn't really make a good effort at announcing the show today because I've been distracted with other things. I had a busy morning, but let me know if there's any background that you want to what I'm working on, because maybe you're not super familiar with what I'm working on today. But I'm going to carry on through. I'll wait for your messages if you've got any questions and stuff. I'll try and answer them. But what I'm going to do right now is we're just going to jump straight to you can see my screen, so you can see what I'm talking about, and it might start to make some sense. I usually do intros and things for a few minutes and maybe talk about some news, but this week I've been super distracted. The only news that I've got is this site that I've acquired, which some of you may have heard of. I'm excited by that. I'm going to launch it next week, but I don't want to talk too much about that. I want to focus on this today because I really want to make some progress on this. And I am time locked because I have got to get away from here in about an hour and a half. I know that sounds like a lot, but there's quite a few things that I want to do. So, just sipping coffee and knocking out chores. Amazing. I wish I could do two things at once. Teach me that skill. Super high level would be cool. Okay. So let me jump to let's just get this in front of everybody. So hopefully you can see my screen. Resolution. What did I do to change the? I quit my little app. Res, easy res. Come to me, easy res. Let's get this going to something a bit smaller. 1080. That'll do. That's the badger. Right. Yeah. So what I'm working on in streams is this project that I've been running for a while. It's about open banking payments. So I don't want to go too much into what open banking payments are. That's something you can have a look at. Google it, have a quick read of some of the main articles that come up, and you'll get a nice overview. But what I'm trying to build is a product that sits on top of open banking payments and enables people to make payments from one bank account to another because they're super cheap, like essentially free. The service provider that I'm using is going to be charging like a monthly fee, just a fixed monthly fee, and no per transaction fees at all, which means that the more transactions you do, your effective per transaction rate will go right down, which is awesome. They've set certain limits based on volume so that they can charge more money at different tiers, but they have got a tier where it's basically unlimited, and that's really cool. And there's interest there from my point of view. The way I found out from them this week, that the way that they want to charge for their service is by merchant, which makes sense. So I'm trying to build a platform, like a marketplace, and then I will be signing up merchants, but they will have to sign up with the provider that I'm using, this company called Trillo. And so when they sign up, say you're the merchant, if you sign up to use my service as a merchant, like think Stripe Connect, it's kind of similar principle, you will pay me, you'll pay my platform the fee that I charge, and then I will pay Trillo the amount on your behalf for your merchant account that sits under what they call my supervisor account. So yeah, I'm the supervisor, I have multiple merchants, and I pay for all of those active merchant accounts on a monthly basis based on the volume that they put through. So if you're going to put through like 30 grand a month, I pay one fee. If you put through more, I pay a different fee. Less, I pay a lower fee, etc., etc. And so it's quite a good little model for enabling me to kind of sign people up for them, but without people, marketplaces, merchants having to see this company Trillo too much. I have to interface directly with them or deal with any of the, kind of the way that they deal with things. So it could be a really cool approach. I think it's got legs. I was talking to a couple of potential clients already this week, and they're super excited, and they're like, sign me up. Problem at the moment is it only works in the UK. It doesn't support subscription payments because there's no such thing really in open banking. They have variable recurring payments, but it's not widely supported, and there's a bunch of other things which are kind of, they've been around for a while. You can do fixed amount standing orders, you can do what we call direct debits. So some of those things need to come in and sort of fill the gaps, but for now I want to focus on like one-off payments, and then basically just enable people to create the payment. So if you're a merchant, you create this concept of the payment, and then you can give the details that I give you back, which is like a link to send people to, or a QR code for them to scan, and they can make the payment, and then the transaction happens directly between their bank and your bank. So there's no one in the middle, literally nothing happens in the middle. All the service is done is gone. You should speak to you, and that you're all cool to speak to each other. So that's what you do. Money transfers across. It's the full amount. So if you said, I want £500 from you, £500 will go. Nobody's creaming a little bit off the top. And what's more, it happens within seconds. So normally, unless there's some problem with the banking system, like the whole network, but basically it will happen within usually under a minute from the moment that it's completed on the customer side to the moment the funds are received in the merchant's bank account. It's all super fast, so it's really cool. Dope. I used to work in fintech, building a platform. Yeah, it's going to be one of those kind of things. I want to keep it simple. Like fintech already sounds a bit too, I don't know what the word is, something not very nice maybe, but I want it to be okay. merchant of record. Yes, I think that's where it will end up being. I think that's like the... Right now, I'm not too worried about that. I just want to get the connections working, and I've got some goals to achieve today on that, so that's why we're going into it. It's all about transaction volume. Well, yeah. So I think with this, actually, because transactions are... I mean, well, I guess I'm jumping to conclusions about what you mean with all about transaction volume. Are you thinking in terms of how that business and this business can make money, or are you thinking just because I've said the different pricing tiers, is it related to that? So maybe I won't jump to conclusions about what you've said until I actually understand better what you mean. ACH is the worst. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to avoid ACH for a while. When you were talking about how the feeds worked. Yeah, sorry. I wasn't watching the stream of chat whilst I was talking. Yeah. Okay, so the main thing that I want to do with that today, so as I said, I've had a couple of potential clients, I've had conversations with them, they've expressed an interest, they've even signed up with their, I've got merchant IDs for them, which is cool. And last week I kind of got to this place where we were talking about some of this, but this is less relevant. The more important part is the fact that we'd got this payment model and creating the payment set up, and now we've got a customer model connected to it and things. So where's that? Can't find the factory class. Oh yeah, that's fine, that's different. So we can see some of that. So I think I set one up and it recorded this. Yeah. So this is after I've made the request to the provider, Trello, I get back their ID, and then I want to store some of this other information, which I do, and then I can do stuff with that. I've associated that payment to the specific customer who's going to make the payment. So this is this payment record. It isn't the record of the transaction that's occurred. It's like a what do you call it? It's a container for this concept of a payment that is in a certain state, right? It might not have happened yet. It might have happened, or it might have failed, or it might been cancelled or something. So there's a bunch of things that could happen there. But this idea that this just exists and is associated with a merchant, which is the team, because I'm just using what's it called, Jetstream, and then from there we can kind of send the user down on a journey of the payment flow. So hopefully that all makes... Yes, exactly, payment intent, that's the right word, payment intent. That all is like in place, but there's no user interface for any of this yet. There's no way for the merchant to come in and sort of create one of these, or there's not really a way for them to even do it via an API as such, although I've got a route at the moment in place that will do it. And so I just need to start sort of thinking through how I'm going to do that. So with the potential customers that I've got lined up, they're super excited. As I said, they signed up for merchant accounts. So I've got all of those details. And what I need to do is create this. The most basic version at the moment feels like I need to create the endpoint that lets them create a payment on behalf of a customer. So then they can take the customer through the payment flow. So we're going to dive into that. And then what else have we got? I sort of realised after last week's stream that there's a little bit of a problem with what we've done. It's like you can hit the payment endpoint for the multiple times to make the same payment. So we need some sort of idempotency key that will enable us to reject multiple duplicate requests, that aren't intended to be duplicated. That feels like something we should sort out quite quickly. I did want to try and get to doing some testing of the SDK. So one of the problems with this provider, they're very small and they built a very basic API for this use case, which is great. The problem is that they haven't got, the documentation's a bit sketchy and they haven't got any libraries yet. So I've built a client library in Saloon, which kind of is this endpoint is one of them. Create a payment obviously is an appropriate name for what it's going to do, but I'm just kind of hammering it together and running with it, and I would like to step back and kind of try and stop doing that, try and do it properly. So let's see if we can do that if we have time. And yeah, just a little bit more rigor around that endpoint that I'm going to create today. The other thing that I was doing, which was kind of potentially interesting, was looking at GraphQL a lot. I don't think it is that interesting. I think GraphQL is horrible, honestly. But why is my keyboard not doing the things that I wanted to do? I don't know. So, I mean, this is just such overkill for what this API is needing to be able to do, but okay, cool. It's what they've chosen. It's easy for them to implement for whatever reason. And then I'm just struck by how horrible this is. I say it feels horrible on the face of it because it's just one big string. I think if my IDE could interpret this as GraphQL and go, okay, I know this looks like GraphQL, then it might actually be better. So can I do some sort of language injection? Don't know. Is there a plugin for GraphQL? Let's have a look. Well, I need to be on the marketplace. Yeah, of course there is. There's an official one. Graphics, including tag template visuals. Will this allow me to highlight string code elsewhere though? That's the question. What's this one? It's the third party one. No, that's something else. GraphQLX. Let's just see if this will do it. Nonce key is a great idea. Nonce is a horrible word in the UK. But yes, you're right. A nonce key. Yeah. Let's see if this lets me. Well, just rebooting PHP Storm has made my fan kick off. I know, I'm on an M1. I'll do that later. Oops. Oh man. Has anyone ever experienced this sort of jiggly mouse? I had temporarily injected. That's a shame. So what do I mean by a jiggly mouse? I mean, you can't see it now. It's not happening now. But yesterday, I don't know what was doing it. There was some thing that was causing my cursor to go very, very quickly all of the time, even when I'm not touching anything. I cleaned my mouse, my trackpad and everything really well. Still going jiggle, 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 jiggle. I was like, I think my laptop's got Parkinson's or something. Yes, I think we need a crew or a I don't know, a gang of anti GraphQL because there's so many of us. Yeah, I don't use the Magic Mouse. I actually I've got an external trackpad because I prefer the trackpad. And I don't normally see it kind of wibbling, but yesterday it was going crazy. And it was really making my eyes like hurt, even though I'm not really looking at the mouse cursor all of the time. You know, it's just the fact that it was buzzing. Anyway, that's a complete distraction. Let's stop talking about that. Okay, so this is a little bit better because it's given me some kind of highlighting, but now it's doing all of its GraphQL things and it's going, I don't know anything about any of these things. Well, yeah, of course not, because they're not part of this application. So, yeah, that's not really that useful. I think it needs a more composable way. I was looking at some packages that supposedly do this, and they're all a little bit convoluted, and a lot of them touch on like, I'm trying to create a GraphQL API. I'm not trying to create a GraphQL API. I'm just consuming a GraphQL API. I just want like the query builder part, you know, just give me a query builder and give me a really nice API. You know, I want to do something like new GraphQL query and then mutation, because that's the terminology that they use. And it's a create payment mutation is that's like the alias that I give it from my end. So that can be whatever we want to call it. So I want to call it a create payment. I want it to receive what do they call variables? Yeah. Oh, thanks. Yeah, that's exactly it. I want it to receive specific variables, and I want those specific variables to be the values that I want to pass in, and that's kind of it. And I want to get back from the, you know, it's kind of like select those things. Exactly that. And then I want to, I think that actually, you know, if you know that your function that you want to call is the one that matters, right? This actual function. And then if I want to alias it, I could pass the alias as a separate thing, you know, or another chained method or something. I don't know. This is just, you know, hypothetical exploration. I don't know if this is even worthwhile. Like, the amount of code that I'm writing here feels like it ends up being almost more than this one. And it's probably obscuring a whole load of variability and optionality that's available using the actual GraphQL syntax that I'm just not aware of because I've not used it, so I don't know. Meh. it would be nicer if it was a bit cleaner, basically, from a very simplistic perspective. But why is this having a fuss now? What's going on here? Uninject. Oh, that line got caught in the treating it as GraphQL when it's not. Fine. Okay, so we'll get on to something else. Let's have a look at this endpoint. So this is not the endpoint. Right. At the moment, I'm just doing it in the web routes because I just want to, try stuff out. In fact, I was doing this as a get with query string parameters last week, just for convenience to test it out. But I think actually what this one needs to be at the moment is a post but in the API. I feel like it should be like I'm not building a UI at the moment. There's no need for a UI. Not to do this little bit that we're trying to do. So I'm going to add it here. Come on, PHP Storm, you used to know how to do that. You used to pull it in and you used to put it in the right order. Why won't you do that now? Who knows? Anyway, so the merchant basically could hit this pay endpoint and then pass in their whatever ID it is. I don't think we need to worry too much about what that should be at this stage. Like, this is just the numeric ID I'm doing. Model binding, root model binding. So it's just going to be using the primary key for now, which isn't necessarily great, but we can fix that up. And then in here, there's a few things that we should do, and this controller is already starting to look like it's getting a bit out of hand. And then I should think a little bit about how we kind of tidy this up. I kind of feel like it should be a form request. I have never really done anything major with form requests. Because we've got the main logic here working. So we get the merchant model, we get their merchant ID, we create the request to the Trello API, send the request, we get the data back, we get it as a data object, and then we move it into a model, and we update some bits here, and we save the model, and create a customer if we have to, or if we don't have to, we get the existing one, whatever, associate all of that with our payment, and then we redirect to the payment URL in this world, because I was doing it as part of just the interface in the browser. But I guess as an API, we don't really want that. We just want a response with JSON, and I guess we kind of want a couple of options. One is the payment URL, which would let the client receiving this data just go and redirect to that URL. But what I found is that mostly this works best on mobile. So part of the whole open banking thing is, you've got access to your banking app on your phone, and Trello's payment flow can kind of pick that up and go, okay, I know that you've got I don't think they are doing anything that sophisticated, honestly. I think they're doing some detection of it being on a mobile device and stopping the flow if it's not, but they're not being super clear about that. So it just errors at the moment, and just kind of spins if you're doing it on desktop. But when you do it on your phone, it kind of flows through to the next step and goes, okay, right, now you can choose your bank. And then when you choose your bank, it goes and opens your bank's app on your phone. So it takes you straight to the right point in your bank, and then you just authenticate the payment. It's amazing. It's super fast, which is great. And the point is, if you're on your phone, when you get this payment link and you can redirect to it on your own device, great. So like if you're buying something from a store on your phone and then it redirects you and then you can jump to the payment, that's all cool. But if it's happening on another screen, like if you're on your desktop or it's happening on someone else's device, obviously, you know, there's a use case for that as well, where like you go into a store and somebody wants to present you with the payment option, you want to pay by bank, you're going to present a QR code. So yeah, okay, they present the QR code, not the redirect. Does that make sense? And then you'd scan the QR code and then you'd be taken to the URL on your phone to do the payment. I think that's, so you need both in this response. I think it needs the URL and QR code. And that's the right one. Although I would like that to be a little bit better. I think that's payment URL. Let's have a look at the data. Payment URL. Payment QR source. Yeah. I think they've got some way of like customizing the QR source as well, so that I haven't looked into this too much fully, but they've got, I don't know what hummingbird means, maybe that's just their server or something, but they've got some way to make this customize the graphic of the URL, so like you can put a logo in there and you can change the colors and stuff, which I've seen in some of their documentation, which is kind of cool, which I should explore at some point, but for now we don't need to do that. So what I want to be able to do then, I'm not going to worry too much about authentication at this point. What I'm going to do, or validation, we do need to do that, but what I want to do here is just hit my endpoint. Go away. What is it? spread.test/API/pay and a merchant ID. So the merchant ID that I've got in here, I think I've only got one at the moment. Where is it? Teams, that's what I'm looking for. This is why names are so important. I'm calling it a merchant, but it's a team. It's really difficult. So ID is 1. So just let's connect those dots, right? It's in the API routes file, so it's /API/pay/the team ID. So pay 1. I'm just going to send that, and it's going to tell me, no, you can't. Oh, yeah, because there needs to be a post, and then it's going to tell me amount must be of type string, so params. I really want them to send this in the body, so I'm going to do raw, we're going to get them to send it as JSON, because why not? Amount. And the amount has to be, it says string in float. Where's that coming from? Is it the create payment? Yeah. So my create payment. Why is Postman just so rubbish at rendering this? Ugh. Grim. My create payment class request will accept the amount in a bunch of ways and then convert it into the right structure. So the way that the Trello API wants it is to kind of UK period for the decimals, kind of the pennies, and it's got to be in pounds. So it's, if you know, I'm storing it in the database. If £10 would be 1,000 as an integer, but they want a string and they want it to be 10.00. Fine. So that's what we do, which means I can take a string, an int or a float, and I can turn that into the right structure. So that's what this request needs to be. I'm just going to say, well, there's something maybe wrong in that because of the way that I want to store it on my end, but maybe we'll see if that figures it out. So amount, let's fulfill that one requirement. So let's say amount still isn't there. So this is probably because I know it is application JSON. Well, that's stupid. Come on, Simon. You know how to do these things, really. Okay, integrity constraint. Email cannot be null, and that's because I haven't put an email for the customer, right? So what I need here is validation at the top. Yeah? Oh, sorry. I'm just, damn, I need the chat window up here somewhere so I can actually see. But you know what happens, right? If I bring this up here and then I click, it disappears. Why? Why does it do that? How can I get a chat window in a way that sticks? OBS is crap for this. Sorry, TJ. I'm not ignoring you. So many mouse issues. Never seen trackpad wobbly trackpad. I tend to always use form requests if only keeping validation rules out of the control of tidiness. We're going to do that. And yes, the US is really far behind with banking. Sorry, it's just how it is. Let me figure out a way to try quickly and get the chat up here so I don't miss something useful. Can I pop this one out? Yeah, that'll do. This'll do now. As they say in Scotland, this'll do. Right. Just keep this down this side. I love manual window management. I don't have any of the keyboard tricks to do it. I am such a loser when it comes to all of that stuff. Right, well, anyway, we'll make it work because we can. So I'm just going to do mine Don't spam me, please. And then there we go. We get those. And maybe actually I should do, the URLs could be, spread branded rather than these obvious Trello ones. I don't know if that's even worthwhile. Like, it would give us an opportunity to track when people actually flow through them, but I don't think that's that critical. Like, it's going to be somewhat, what's the word? Opposite of transparent. Man, my brain is not working today. Opaque. There we go. It's going to be somewhat opaque to the user anyway. They're going to get redirected to that thing. They might see some co-branded stuff. I don't know yet what that's going to look like in the fullness of time. Like, it's early days at the moment, so it does just say Trello, but I kind of want it to say Trello with spread, and then for the merchant that's using my service, kind of, yeah, something. We'll get around to that. Those are all like non-important details that we can leave right till the end. I don't even need to think about them. So, happy path, this works. What's it stored in the database? Let's have a look at that, because I just sent that 10 through as an integer. Payments. So it stored it as 1,000. Perfect. So that's kind of working. Let's try some variants of that. Let's try sending a float. I should do a different one. That's still 1,000. Good. Let's do 10 with some actual sensible numbers. There we go. And then we should be able to do a string as well. So I feel like I should fix this idempotency thing. I think it's really important at this stage to get that right. So how do we do that from our controller? I want, actually the first bit I think is to talk about what that means, what actually it is that we're trying to do. So I said earlier on, I can make this same request multiple times. It's just going to keep creating payment records and links. That's kind of, it's okay, because they're not, like, if somebody follows through and makes this payment, and they've skipped the other links, then the end result is the same, right? They've paid once. They've made the payment that they should have made. But I think there are many other problems that come if you don't store this out properly. So one is that you get loads of duplication in my table, which I would then have to clean up. I don't even know how I would clean that up, right? Because I don't know which ones of these are legit and which ones aren't. I don't know if somebody's going to use it later or not. It's out of my control. So I can't clean these up. They're just going to sit around. Some of them will just sit around forever and never be used. But I don't think that's even the worst part of it. I think the worst bit is that if the merchant that's making the request has stored, some reference to this payment intent, let's say this one, and then for some reason the client's application, the customer using the client application, has made another request that's created another payment, and they end up paying a different payment to the one that the merchant has captured. And by captured, I mean like they've got some record of it on their side. I just don't want them to get into that situation. Like that could be a real mess. That they don't recognize payments being made by customers. Legit payments have been made, but they can't reconcile it in their database because they've got the wrong record. So there needs to be, like, they tell us what the record key is that they're using. We keep that and we pass that back to them. And then if they try and do that one again, that we say, oh, you've tried that one. So I think this is quite a common pattern. I'm pretty sure. I haven't done integration with Stripe for a while, but once. Ephemeral key. Ephemeral key. Oh man. Do you know Stripe's API and documentation used to be really easy to just get into, and like now I read some of these things, issuing elements. What the hell is that? It's like freaking Wikipedia. I've got to go down a rabbit hole to find out these things just to figure out what it is that I'm trying to do. I don't even know if I'm in the right area of the documentation. It's just got issuing. I don't know what issuing is. This is not the right area, for sure. Sorry, I did see some comments come up. I'm skipping over to those now. Really appreciate often you check in against things that can be done later versus even. Yeah, this is like, it's really difficult. We always want to what's the word? I think we often want to jump to the things that are interesting as developers. We want to work on the bits that feel like they're going to be fun. I feel that pull all of the time, but the problem is that's not what's needed. That stuff can often come later, and doing that thinking now just delays the work that we actually need to get on with. I'm actually really bad at doing it. I'm trying to get better. I feel like I get distracted very easily and focusing on the wrong things, and it's like you do have to just go, what is the thing that I'm trying to do right now? What's the thing that matters the most right now? Anyway, atomic locks applicable for that. Sorry, Daryl, what were you referring to when you were talking about atomic locks being applicable for what? Is this me creating the payment record, and that there might be another one that comes in? Maybe he's gone. I'm just seeing that I've only got one person watching. So maybe because I didn't answer his question quickly enough. I'm sorry. Okay, well, I'm gonna assume, that it was something to do with that. And yeah, atomic locks. So atomic locks probably. That's more if I've got multiple records being edited at the same time, that need to be created in a specific way without the interference of some external thing. It's not going to fit this particular problem. I think what it needs to be is somehow the client, in this case the merchant's website or app or whatever it is that they're using that's calling my API, needs to say, I know, like effectively, I know that this payment is unique, or like here's the unique reference for this payment, basically, so that they can convey the meaning to me of like, if the client sends this request again, that I should ignore it, basically. So the idempotency bit is this idea of like, well, if I receive 2 post requests that look the same, I don't know what to do with them unless the client specifically says they are identical, you know. And in the absence of a pre-agreed identifier, which is the problem here, we don't have that. I can't tell without the client telling me. So I have to rely upon the client to provide some information, and that is this idea of an idempotency key, or a nonce as it's often called. And that's why I'm looking at these docs, because it mentions nonce. I thought Stripe had got something about nonces elsewhere, but maybe they don't. This is their JS docs. Just... Sorry, I'm having a quick look elsewhere. I can find anything. I'll bring this onto the screen in a second. So, so I guess I don't know exactly what this request is meant to be doing. Come on. But they've included it as a header here. That's kind of a nice way of doing it, I guess. Maybe the reason why I haven't thought about it and seen it very much when I'm working against Stripe is because it's just now part of their SDK. You know, it's just like baked in, and they're just handling it for us. I don't know, but you know, I certainly don't think about adding this header and figuring out what this value should be when I'm making requests to Stripe, and that's kind of nice, you know. I like, but that again, that's another level. That's me kind of having to provide an SDK for my API to my merchants and users. That's like a much later consideration. I just want something really simple. So let's run through what Stripe talk about with this. They say, safely retrying requests without accidentally performing the same operation twice. That's exactly the problem, right? So we're on the right path. When creating or updating an object, use an idempotency key. Then, if a connection error occurs, you can safely repeat the request without risk of creating a second object or performing the update twice. Perfect. This is exactly what we're talking about. Stripe's idempotency works by saving the resulting status code and body of the first request made for any given idempotency key, regardless of whether it succeeded or failed. Saving the resulting status code and body of the first request made. So there's not status. So like if it comes up with a key completely on the client side, think like merchant's website, they're trying to create a payment. They come up with a key. They create the request. They put the key in the request. And they're sending that whole request over to my service. So like the amount, the email, and the key. Jump. And for whatever reason, it fails. And on their end, on the client end, it thinks it's failed. So they want to retry it. But let's say for whatever, the request was received on my end. It was created. It was fully created properly. In order for me to then tell my marketplace spread to tell if they send that request again that it's the same one as the one I've already received, I need to have kept that key. I need to store the key. So then, and they need to know if the request has failed and they want to try it again, they need to use the same key. They can't regenerate the key. So that's up to them to control, but I can point them in the right direction when the time comes. But the point is, if they can just generate a key and they can send me that key, then I can take the details and go, okay, well, for this merchant, for this customer, I've already got this key. And those 3 bits of information is all I need to know. Is it this bit? Oh, no. It can't be just that. It needs to be the amount as well. In fact, it's got to be the whole request. So the key should just be, this is probably how Stripe do it. The key is probably a hash of the whole request. So like you get all of the data for the request, hash it, and then you add that hash as a header, which is what they're doing. We could do it as a header, we could do it in the body. I don't think it really matters too much. I think it's slightly easier if it's a header because the body then is the content of the hash. Does that make any sense at all? I don't know. But yeah, if it's a header, then I can just pull that out and I can hash the body myself and go like, do these things do they go together? That's a slightly separate issue. Like I could actually work out if I use the same hashing mechanic. That's maybe a bit dangerous, but at the very least I can say this key is for this body, and then I go and just keep those 2 things together, and then I can say as long as I use the same hashing mechanic every time on my side, it doesn't matter if the hashing mechanic that's used in the client and on the server is different. What have you said, TJ? I can't quite read because there's a heart symbol in the way. Just, if the body is always going to be a reasonable size when hashed. This is really terrible user interface, isn't it? Google. Yeah. Well, so it's not going to be hashing in the sense of like trying to keep the entire body. I think it's just creating a hash of that. So like an MD5, it's always going to be a fixed length, right? I'd venture that's what this idempotency key is on there. So it's probably a SHA-1 or something. What do they actually say? They suggest UUIDs or another random string with enough entropy to avoid collisions. Yeah, so I mean, MD5, we already know that there can be collisions. SHA-1, we know there can be collisions, so try and avoid. UUID feels appropriate, so it's also going to be quite familiar and already available to us. For the sake of my testing here anyway. let's do it so that it should be a UUID, but I don't need to necessarily validate that too much. What I need is, we need to store it in the database, right? So that's the first thing. I need a place to store this key. Make migration add see if I can spell it, idempotency key to payments. Your payments. Idempotency key to payments. I don't know what it should be. It needs to be, yeah, it needs to be indexable. It needs to be nullable at the moment because I've got rows in there that don't. Actually, does it need to be nullable? If I don't make it nullable, what will happen? Will the migration fail? Because I've got rows in here already. Yeah, I agree with that. That's a nice idea. Potentially down the line, again, if we want to do an extra layer of checking. I'm going to just run this and see what happens. Wait, is there anything else I need to capture? What's going to be useful there? If I hash the body, if I hash the body, I should store the hash of the body as well, like a request hash, so I don't have to keep doing that. Maybe it's not that expensive, like. Yeah, I don't think it's that expensive. Let's not worry about it. Let's just run this and see what we get. PHP migrate. Oh, it didn't fail. Great. That means we've just got a bunch of rows with an extra column that's empty. Perfect. Thanks, MySQL. Okay. And then in the, where's my control? I've got too many things open already. It's this one, isn't it? Let's get rid of a bunch of these. Sorry, this is laborious because I want to keep a few open. We'll keep that one open. We can get rid of these migrations. They take up too much space in the tab bar. Get rid of that. Okay. So we need to make our idempotency key fit into here. Yeah, I should have thought about that a little bit more actually, because I didn't really pay attention. It's just stored it as a string. So it's, what's the length of that? It's going to be a varchar, isn't it? Where's payments? 255. That's okay. I mean, like, there's some variability to it because we don't control what the idempotency key can be. We just expect that particular merchant must provide a unique one to them. That's it. Fine. Okay. So 255 is probably sufficient entropy for them to use whatever they want to use without it being crazy from a storage perspective on my side. Cool. So it's a string. I don't need to do anything special there. I just want to capture it here. So when when we set, it needs to be done here. So this is like my after reference after the Trello request has been saved. This also needs to be thought through in terms of timing, because the whole point here is that it doesn't get created on my system. Do I care about it being created again on Trello? They don't seem to have cared about this at all. We will have made a request to them that we don't need to make. So I actually kind of want to do I don't know. I think we can make the request to them multiple times at the moment. It doesn't really matter. But the check for it being unique alongside a given hash of content of the row data. So it's team ID, like just to be getting this clear, team ID, amount, currency. I don't think we can hash that meta. No, that's because that's the response data from that. We don't want to use these generated columns as part of it because those would be different anyway. Customer ID. So those 4 bits of information we would have to hash. And then take that hash and the idempotency key and compare those two. Is that right? No, something doesn't feel right about that. I can't hash a random row that I don't have yet. I can't hash stuff across other rows in the database. It needs to be, maybe I do need to store the hash. I need to store the hash generated as it comes in. Yeah. So the problem that I've got going on in my head is I've got to, how can I visualize this better? I need to kind of write this down somehow. Let's just do it here. The request data is going to be like email. I don't need these brackets. Email, amount, idempotency key, right? And yeah, merchant ID. I know from the URL. The data stored in the database is customer ID, amount, team ID, which is the merchant ID. And we've got currency, which isn't really exposed at this point because we're only supporting GBP and idempotency key, lay key. And what we want, what we've got that we can hash is email, amount, merchant ID. So hash email, amount, merchant ID, and that's going to result in some, whatever it is. Imagine it's some value, okay? And then we go this hash plus this, I'm just going to call it key for shortness, combined should be unique in our database. Then we can basically tell, okay TJ, if you're still there, bye. It was good to have you join in. Thanks very much for all of your comments. I hope you can do it again because this was really nice. Coming back to this hash and this key combined should be unique in our database. That means if I don't store the hash of this same data for all of the other rows, whatever my hash of that is, if I don't store that, I can't do this. I can't check to see if it's unique without then going through all of the rows, hashing them all. So I've got to store the hash, basically. That's a pain. And this is where now I have to create a new migration because add data hash to payments. Because I don't want to do downs. Like, downs are good in development, downs are bad in production. But it's fine. I could have just cleaned out the whole thing, but I also don't have factories. So if I had some factories, that would have made that a little bit easier. But it doesn't matter. I can squash all of these at some point. I don't care about it being after. It can't be nullable, and it must be indexed. The other one, that was just index as well, wasn't it? Yeah, perfect. So data hash equals hash of whatever. This plus this key. Data hash plus this key should be unique in our database, right? Which means then I can just do a query, a unique query as part of my validation to check that the hash that I generate of the request data coming in and the idempotency key that's come with it is unique. Perfect. I'm going to leave those notes there for now, and that leads us to validation. Basically that's where we're at. We've got to do that bit of validation because the validator will do that work for us, but we also need to do validation over email address because we saw SQL errors. I don't want those to leak out, and the amount wasn't really well handled. I just want better error messaging for the client when those things fail or they're not done right. So I've got about 15 minutes. Let's try. I haven't done this. Did I have another tab? Oh yeah, let's close that one. I haven't done FormRequest validation for a really long time. So let's just run through this. For more complex validation, you may wish to create a form request. That's what I want to do. Form request, custom request class, encapsulate validation, authorization logic. Make request artisan command. Perfect. Create payment request. Cool. The generated form request will be placed in the app request directory. It will be created. Each request has two methods, authorized and rules. Perfect. As you might have guessed, authorized methods responsible for determining if the user can perform the action, and rules method returns validation rules that should apply. Just type in request on your controller method. Don't even have a request in here because I've been using the request helper. So this even encourages us to do this better, right? So create payment request, and instead of these, should be able to swap this out. Now, this is something I talked about before. I've got requests already. This request, which is also a create payment request, is the one that I'm passing on to Trello. So this is where some of this needs to be encapsulated a little bit better, because I really don't want to call that a Trello request. I just want to call it a request. But hey, in fact, I probably don't even need it, because I can just, I think I only did it for debugging purposes. So we got rid of that request variable. Where else am I using request? Here. And the idempotency key, we'll have it in a header, right? So we're going to get it from header. Yeah, and we'll call it the same as what Stripe called it. They've done our thinking for us. Perfect. Nice. I'm going to move this commentary into my form request class, because that's where I'm actually going to need to do that. Where's that gone? Well, it said it was going to create a requests folder now. Or is it in HTTP? Okay, so I'm just going to stick that here for a second. Thank you, Daryl. What am I thinking? I don't know. Even I don't know what I'm thinking. I'm thinking too many things all at once, and that's like, do you remember that, do you ever watch The Simpsons? And there's that episode where Mr. Burns got, he's really, really sick. He goes to the doctor, and Dr. Hibbert says he's actually surviving because he's got so many problems. He tries to squeeze all these little toys through a little door, and they all get stuck. It's like, what's happening with my brain right now? Well, the thing that I need to do is just put the rules in that class, right? So I know that amount is required. This is how I use this. Yeah, it's just the same as the usual required. Numeric. Yeah, I think minimum is like that, and we should set a maximum actually. So I think for now, the maximum should be 1,000. That probably makes sense because we're in a trial period. Required email, yeah. And then, can you do validation logic against headers? Laravel, validate header exists. I mean, has, yeah, but it doesn't, it's not in the validation set. It's kind of here, but I don't know. This is just setting up the rules. I don't want logic in here. I don't know if I should put logic in here. Is it unauthorized? If the user is authorized, well, yeah. So if this has, is it a header? Come on. Headers has. Headers has. But I don't think that's going to give us a nice error message. Excuse me? What are you trying to alert me to? Nothing. I don't know what it's trying to do. Fine. The key thing is just that I'm protecting against a request that doesn't have that header. But I'll work out how to do better logic on that later on. And then if I put it in the header and say idempotency key, no dash, I'm just going to keep it simple. It worked. And if I get rid of one of these, now, I mean, that's not pretty, because I need to set the accept header to something other than, okay, I need to write down accept application JSON. New name field is required. Fine, that's okay. That's better, right? Now it's still creating all of those records because it's just storing that key multiple times because I'm not checking the uniqueness of that value. So how do I check the uniqueness? I kind of wanted to do it as a well, also I'm not storing my hash that I've created, so let's have a look. I've got my, oh, I didn't even migrate it, did I? That's like, this is how much I'm jumping around. This is really bad. So I had my migration, didn't even run it. So now I've got my whatever data hash, but I'm not storing anything in it either, so that's problematic. So I need my payment data hash. I put that in fillable. I don't need it to be fillable. I probably don't want it to be fillable, honestly. I don't want it to be created from the outside. I want to explicitly have done that. I mean, not from the outside. I mean, I don't want it to be mass assignable. Oh, because I should have done some work to work out what it is before it ends up on the model. But these casts, I mean, they're being explicit. They don't need to be that really, but I think it's helpful. This is kind of what I want to do. Request input email, request input and is amount. So I could do email here so that I don't have to do that again here. That would be better. So just left that as it was. Email amount merchant ID. Email. I want this to be always struct string to lower. I should probably this is probably better. Yeah, I prefer that. String. Why am I wrapping that twice? I don't know. 256 email now. Let's just see what the data hash looks like. Oops. That's not ridiculous, and if I do it again, it should be the same. Basically, so same request again and again, same hash, perfect. That's exactly what I want it to be. And I'm going to save that in my database, and then in my request, I just need a way to say what should I call it? Well, again, like this is logic that doesn't go here yet because I wanted it to be a validation rule because then I can get the nice validation messages. And it's like a custom rule that does some special logic. And that's maybe where it should be rather than the authorize. Let's have a look at that. Maybe I can do that. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, so there's like after. This is quite nice. Oh, and I can add the messages method. Can I use messages for these additional failures, whatever? Yeah, okay. This is the way to do it. This is what I should be doing. So you need to perform additional validation. You can accomplish this using the FormRequest after method. After method should return an array of callables or closures which will be invoked. The given callables will receive the validator, allowing you to raise additional error messages if necessary. add, and I just give it a thing. This is exactly what I want. Basically, I want all of this. It's perfect. Man, request classes, top drawer. Okay. And so it's not this logic. There, I want it here. If this headers has, then validator errors add idempotency key. Your idempotency key is missing. Just try that one. So that's like the first check, as it doesn't have a key, right? So let's go back, turn this off, and send it, and now we should get a better error. Yeah, that is nice. And then the next step is, if they've got an idempotency key, that the hash, the uniqueness, how do I do a unique check on that? So I want to get the key out, get the key, so let's just call it key, and then find a row. No, that's the other bit is the actual hash of the data that's come in, which I'm doing here. That's kind of interesting. What if I add this to the request dynamically? I can do that, right? Can I do it here? Is there a before? There's an after. Is there a before? Preparing input for validation. If you need to prepare, man, this is just so good. Yeah, Daryl, you're right. Prepare. If you need to normalize any request data after validation is complete, you may use past validation. That's not, it's definitely this. So I want to merge this stuff in, and that's going to be merged into the request, like the input data. So in theory, I should be able to go back here and say, instead of that stuff, I should be able to go request data hash. Not like that. That's like this. If that's true, then I would almost want that to be the same for consistency. You know? Like, I just want that to all look the same, and it feels really nice. So if this is true, if this is what I can do, I'll be very happy, because this is something that is fantastic. So, because then I should actually just put it in. I probably don't need this check, because then I can get it into my validation, because it's part of the input data. Well, let's put that there, because I need this stuff. do data hash is that, and we're going to do idempotency key is this header, that. And then actually probably don't need any of this logic. In here, because I can just do it as a validation rule. So if I just said here idempotency key required data hash is required, and then I still don't know how I do the uniqueness check here of those two things combined. I just have another field that's like potency check, but I don't store it. Unique payments. Laravel. I'm on validation now, so the unique rule should be on here somewhere. Unique. This is what not that. The basic string version is not enough. And I need to import some of these things. Yeah, it's that one. And I'm guessing it's a base level query builder, hopefully. Right, so rule unique payments where potency key where data hash equals this input data hash. So I don't know what that's going to translate to, but we should be able to see it play out. That would mean, in theory, or any of the stuff that I was trying to do here, I can just get rid of. And I just need to make sure that those two values come in correctly. Payment data hash, I don't need that bit. These values are this input email, this input amount, merchant ID. That's the tricky one. That doesn't come in as input. It's root parameter, root. Where? Which one is it? Path. Yes, I don't know. Let's just see what it looks like. It's not giving me an obvious answer to that question. Wow, that's too much stuff. Yeah. How do I get 1 off of there? Who knows the answer to that question? Laravel, get request is it really that simple? Root merchant, that I mean, I'm going to take your word for it. Let's give it a go. This root parameter merchant. Whoops. How many are you going to try and add for me? No way. That's brilliant. That's super accessible. So I just want the ID. Man, why have I not been using form requests more often? These things are killer in a good way. There's so much power to that. Like, even that's, yeah, I skipped over that bit, didn't I? That's the problem. Just read the documentation. RTFM, man. Thanks for the reminder, Daryl. Should not skip over those things. Go slow to go fast, etc., etc. Okay, let's probably, yeah. Let's try. Let's see what happens now. I'm going to leave my idempotency key out. It says it's required. Okay, let's put it in. It's doing something else. And now we've got a payment, which means we've made it through validation, right? Because we dumped in our controller. And the hash is there and the key is there, right? And then if we try and do it again, oh no, we haven't stored that. So that's not gonna, let's store it the first time, right? So it's worked. We get a response data, and if we do it again, oh, it failed. It didn't stop us. So the key's the same, the hash should be the same. Why has that validation rule not kicked in? These two are identical, and that's the problem that I'm trying to solve. Why? I don't need that anymore. Why? Where? Why is it building this complex where? When I'm literally just... That feels unnecessary. Unnecessary. I still think that's not gonna do the trick. Yeah. Unique. I'm missing something here about that. that feels like that should have solved the problem. No, it's because this rule is in the wrong place. I'm trying to do it on this random value that doesn't exist, I never created. It should be on this bad boy. That's fine. Well, we'll get an error one way or another. This idempotency key has already been taken. Fantastic. And then if I change it to something else, top banana team, we did it. That's exactly it. Oh yeah. Sick. See, we've just built an idempotency validator in, I don't know, an hour. I can get rid of these notes. These are useless now because the code says it all. We check the key for uniqueness. And I don't need that because it's inferred. I'm going to prove that. Damn. Look at how much code we've deleted. That's brilliant. And we've added the validation that we needed. We've added the idempotency key thing that we needed. We've done it as a header, but it's pulled out in a really nice way. This is sick. Right, before we go I need to stop. And so before we go any further, we're gonna wrap all this up. I'm just gonna do all of that. There we go. Add, create, payment, request, adds validation, and idempotency. That's simple enough for now. Shifts, pay, endpoint into API. Beautiful. Right. And that means if I push this, I think it deploys to production. So I'm going to do it. I'm going to even get that into production, which means I can now, well, in a minute, spread.com API. I don't know if I've got, let me try and do this 1 second. Where? That's interesting. Did I not create the connection to that? It seems no. Okay. Let me just dig into my Forge setup because I want to understand why I've not created my I'm just trying to get database access, and I thought I'd created a connection to that, but I haven't. Or I have, and I've forgotten that I've changed something else. Nope, it was called not playground. I don't really remember, but I know it's this one. So I'm going to now create a new connection, and it's going to be spread production blah blah blah. Username's forged. Password, I can't remember. Let's get the password. Come to me, password. Thank you. Database. Spread. And over SSH server. I'm going to tie it to that domain just for now. Spread.co. No, it's not .co.uk. Forge. Thanks, Essa. Nice to have you with us. Like, I didn't realise you were there, silently lurking. How's your coding been getting on this morning? You have success with what you're trying to do? Test up connection. Sorry, I'm just setting up table plus connection to my production server, which for some reason I'd not done. I normally do it straight away. Save. And now for some reason I can't move the window. So teams, I don't even have any teams. Damn. So this would fail because I haven't even got a team. Right, so I'm gonna, do you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna set up, what's the time? Oh damn, it's 1:30 already. I can't do this right now. I'm gonna do a really quick version of this. I'm gonna go to justspread.com. I think I turned off registering. No, I did. Oh, it makes it slightly more painful. This is the challenge. So I think I've got a user. No, I don't even have a user. I have nothing set up on there. Shocking. Okay. Well, I can't do that manually. Not really. That's not going to work. I need to set up registration. I don't really want registration to be open because it's not super clear. But let's do it anyway. Let's just do it. Who cares? I'm going to reopen registration. Let's get rid of my firewall. I'm only doing it so that I can prove a point. In fact, it doesn't, I don't even need to lock it down later. I don't care. No one's going to be able to do anything. It's just going to get loads of rubbish. Did I push that? I did. And Forge is done already. Yep. Took 10 seconds to deploy. Amazing. So I want to register. Yeah, that'll do. Pretend you didn't see this. I'll rotate that later. Cool, okay. So now I've got a user and a team. That was quick, Daryl. You beat me to it. And I need my merchant ID, right? So my merchant ID is in here. In Teams. This is my merchant ID. Save that, and then pay team 2 because somebody took team 1, should get the same result. Oh my gosh, forgot that was wired up. Nearly pulled my laptop onto the floor. I mean, that's success. Let's open this and see what this looks like. Right, there's your QR code. Now, that means I can actually have a real customer of mine make an API request to my service and get back a QR code that they can scan and send somebody through a payment flow. This is wild. This means people can actually use this even though there's no real user interface. What you need is the merchant ID, which I'm being quite limited about people who can sign that up at the moment. If you want to get a merchant ID and you want to try this out, let's have a chat about your use case. We're not going to do that on stream. It's going to be me and you. And then I'll send you how you can set up your merchant account. We'll get you added onto this, and then you can try the API and you can try the whole payment flow. And it's full, live, ready to go, completely free, no access, no special access required. All you'll have to have done is sign up for the Trello account, which I'll send you the link for, and set up one of these, which is super easy, as you've just seen. It takes 2 seconds. And then you can take real payments bank to bank for free. Amazing. Tell your friends. I have to go. This is really, I've gone way over the time. I need to leave in about 5 seconds. So I am going to, which one's the button? Which one? I can't remember. This one. Ooh. This is it, friends. We're on the verge of something great. We're on the verge of something fantastic. Bye, Daryl. I'm going to finish it right here. I'm probably not even going to do my closeout thing. I'm just going to say thank you for joining. This has been fantastic. Have fun. Goodbye.